JBNN keep you informed. I'm Michelle Jones. Before we get into the news, please remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment, and to share the news with someone today. Now on to the news. Rushing Barnett requests new attorney, refuses to abandon appeal. Rushing Barnett, convicted of the brutal murder of his cousin Kemisha Wright and their 4 children in June 2022, has firmly decided to pursue an appeal against his life sentences. Barnett, who received 5 life sentences from Supreme Court Justice Leighton Pusey, is contesting what he describes as excessive sentences. Barnett is eligible for parole after serving 61 years and 8 months. Despite the advice of his court-appointed attorney, Kemar Robinson, to abandon the appeal due to a lack of legal grounds, Barnett remains resolute. The horrific crime occurred on June 21 when Wright and her children, 15-year-old Commander Smith, 12-year-old Charlie Smith, 5-year-old Raphaela Smith, and a 23-month-old Kishon Henry Jr. were discovered in their Cockapeace home. Each victim suffered from severe trap wounds and had their throats slashed, marking the incident as one of the most tragic in the country's history. During a court hearing on Monday, Robinson was instructed to obtain written instructions from Barnett regarding the appeal. However, when the case was revisited in the Court of Appeal on Friday, Robinson revealed that Barnett disagreed with his counsel and expressed a desire to seek new representation. St. James Police seek driver involved in fatal hit and run. A woman lost her life after being struck by a motor vehicle in the early hours of Friday morning on Howard Cook Boulevard. The incident occurred around 4 a.m. and the victim has not yet been identified. Reports indicate that the woman was attempting to navigate the boulevard when she was hit by a vehicle whose driver allegedly fled the scene without stopping. She suffered what seemed to be several broken bones and internal injuries, which proved fatal. Emergency services arrived shortly after the collision and transported her to the hospital, where she was pronounced dead upon arrival. The police have launched an investigation into the circumstances surrounding the incident, focusing on identifying the driver responsible for this tragic hit and run. Eyewitnesses are being sought to provide any information that could assist in the investigation. Body of Trelawney man found at home with gunshot wounds. Trelawney has now recorded at least 19 murders since the start of the year, with a recent fatal shooting of 47-year-old Rahman Dobson in the Brixton Road community. According to reports from the Falmouth Police, Dobson's body was discovered by a resident around 3 p.m. on Thursday. The police were summoned, and upon arrival, Dobson was found inside his house with gunshot wounds to the upper body. He was rushed to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. The rise in violent crime has left residents deeply concerned about safety in what was once regarded as a peaceful parish. Marvia Robinson expressed her frustration, stating, "One time Trelawney never used to have so much killing. We were a peaceful parish, but things are changing for the worse." Another resident, Richard Williams, suggested that the recent wave of violence may be linked to an influx of criminals from other areas. The gunmen are coming from other violent parishes and disturbing the peace in Trelawney. This is not a good look at all, he noted. JSAF reported multiple gun seizures on Thursday. In a series of coordinated operations on Thursday, September 26, members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force, JCF, made significant seizures of guns and ammunition in separate operations. During a snap raid on Baker Street in Craigtown, Kingston 12, officers attached to the Denhamtown Police Station seized a Taurus 9mm pistol along with a magazine containing 9 9mm rounds of ammunition. Reports are that at about 2:40 p.m., the lawmen searched the area, during which a man was searched and the weapon was found in his waistband. He was arrested and taken into custody. However, his identity has been withheld pending further investigations. Meanwhile, over in Springfield, Sheffield, Westmoreland, a Taurus 9mm pistol with a magazine containing 3 rounds of ammunition was seized during a confrontation between police and a suspect at about 2:35 p.m. Detectives from the Kingston Eastern Police Division Operations Team and the Proactive Investigation Unit also conducted an extensive operation in Dunkirk, Kingston 16, where they recovered 2 additional guns and an impressive 92 assorted rounds of ammunition. Reports from the police are that between the hours of 2:30 p.m. and 4 p.m., a search was conducted in the area. During the search, the following items were found: 1.45 pistol, 1 Canic 9mm pistol, 9 9mm cartridges, 12 5.56 cartridges, 6.45 cartridges, and the 65 7.62 cartridges. Despite the significant findings, no arrests were made in connection with the seizure, and investigations are ongoing. Supermarket robbed in Newmarket, St. Elizabeth. The police in Newmarket, St. Elizabeth, are actively searching for two men involved in a brazen robbery at a Chinese supermarket on Thursday afternoon. The incident occurred around 4:45 p.m. when the suspects, armed with guns, entered the supermarket located in the Newmarket Square and demanded money from the proprietors. According to reports, the business owners complied with the demands. However, as the robbers fled the scene, they fired several shots before escaping in a waiting grey Toyota Axio. Fortunately, no injuries have been reported in connection with the incident. This robbery marks the second such crime in Newmarket within 3 weeks, raising concerns among residents and the local business owners about safety in the area. Just weeks prior, another Chinese store was similarly held up by two armed men, prompting an ongoing police investigation into that incident. Former university student Matthew Hyde pleads guilty. Matthew Hyde, a 21-year-old former student of the University of the West Indies, Mona, has pleaded guilty to multiple assault charges related to a harrowing incident involving his ex-girlfriend. Hyde's guilty plea was entered on Thursday in the Home Circuit Court, where he'll be sentenced on October 25. Hyde has pleaded guilty to assault occasioning grievous bodily harm, use of malicious communication, assault occasioning actual bodily harm, and false imprisonment. These charges stem from a shocking episode in February 2023, during which Hyde allegedly held his ex-girlfriend captive in his dorm room at Georgia Lane Hall for 3 days, subjecting her to torture with a hot clothing iron and various implements. The young woman was discovered in a distressed state sometime after 10 p.m. on February 9, 2023, leading to an immediate investigation and the subsequent charges against Hyde. Reports indicate that the violence escalated following accusations of infidelity. Hyde is represented by attorneys Patrick Peterkin and Nudge MacDonald, while attorney Obika Gordon is advocating on behalf of the complainant. Wicked and cruel, likening the murder of Portland businesswoman Tonya MacDonald by her husband and an accomplice to that of an animal being butchered, Justice Chester Stamp on Thursday said the case was among the worst of the worst, for which there could be no other penalty than life imprisonment. There was a deliberateness that could only be described as wicked and cruel in the stabbing of this woman several times in her neck and chest, and the cutting of her throat like an animal taken off to slaughter, the judge said, while adding that the offense involved a high degree of brutality and cruelty. Stamp further highlighted that the victim's body was then set on fire as if she wasn't dead by then. The murder involved a prolonged degree of suffering as this young woman fought for her life, breaking back the seat of her car, kicking out the windscreen of the car, screaming for her mother, he added during the sentencing hearing in the Home Circuit Court on Thursday. Businessman Everton Beachistock MacDonald, 69, who looked on with a fierce scowl, and the killer Oscar Barnes, 33, whose face carried a smirk, were both given life sentences with 28 years and 11-month pre-parole prison terms for the murder. MacDonald was also sentenced to 4 years and 6 months for conspiracy, while Barnes, a St. Mary Tyler, Fisher and Farmer, was sentenced to 6 years and 6 months for the same charge. Both sentences are to run concurrently. The judge, who also described the murder as extremely heinous and brutal, said it has features such as deliberate killing, murder for payment, and the premeditated planning by the conspirators, which made it one of the worst cases. In arriving at the pre-parole sentence, the judge pointed to the aggravating factors he had mentioned earlier, which he said pushed the crime into the worst category. Further mitigating factors, he noted Barnes' good antecedents and community report, as well as the 2 years and 1 month time that he had served in prison, while for MacDonald, he pointed to his good antecedents, noting that he had no previous conviction and was a man who would contribute financially to the development of the Portland community and would help the less fortunate. At the same time, he said the community report was not so positive. Describing MacDonald as the author and instigator of the crime, the judge used a starting point of 35 years for the businessman and a starting point of 34 years for Barnes. Prior to the sentence being handed down, while noting that the judge's hands were tied given his client's age and the statutory minimum, Christopher Townsend, during his plea mitigation, described the situation as challenging for his client, MacDonald, who he said would be far beyond his 10, regardless of whichever way the sword falls. Wherever you are in your mind means that you'll be spending the rest of his life in prison, he said to the judge. Townsend, however, asked the judge to bear in mind that his client had no previous conviction and was a businessman for most of his life and had contributed significantly to his community. Counsel Ernest Davis, for his part, while reminding the judge that Barnes was not the instigator, said his client was capable of being rehabilitated and was a married father of 3 who could still make something of his life. Noting Barnes' previous breeder larceny conviction, Davis, however, asked the judge to disregard the conviction and to treat his client as an individual with a good record before this case. He argued that breeder larceny, though it is an offense that includes dishonesty, does not involve violence and is a common thing in the country. Davis also asked the judge to credit Barnes for his cooperation with the police and to take into account the report from the community members who were shocked that he was charged and that their belief in his innocence, as well as the report that they would welcome him back into the community. The 32-year-old woman's partially burnt body was found on a deserted road in Sherwood Forest in Portland in July 2022. A contract killer, Denvelin Minot, who is serving 19 years in prison for his role in her murder, had testified that McDonald hired him to kill his wife for $3 million, but that he passed on the work to Barnes. However, Barnes' lawyers have suggested that he was not involved in the plot and that it was Minot's son who the police had initially arrested but later released without charge. Minot, in the secretly recorded conversation, had said repeatedly that his son was involved in the plot and went with him on a taxi drive on one occasion to Tonia's house to kill her. However, when asked about that admission, he said he had only mentioned his son to protect Barnes as McDonald wanted him to act alone. The trial had also heard that the police had no physical evidence tying Barnes to the murder, apart from Minot's statements. Additionally, the court also heard that Minot did not provide a description or the name of the man whom he claimed murdered Tonia. McDonald's lawyers, for their part, have suggested that there was no conspiracy and that he did not hire anyone to kill his wife. They had also suggested that the voice in the secret recording was not his and that he had no discussion with Minot about killing his wife. In the meantime, Townsend said McDonald will appeal his conviction and that the documents are already being drafted. Attorney at law Monique Scott will be leading the appeal. JBN will keep you informed. Please remember to subscribe, like, share, leave us a comment, and click the notification bell to receive our daily news items.